Good morning, beautiful ladies. We are here. We made it on time, and I have the beautiful Karen with me, which I'm really excited about. So thank you, Karen.
Thank you very much for having me. Really excited for this conversation too.
Really excited, particularly because Karen and I, whilst we were just saying, just had a couple of minutes, how we kind of feel like we know each other, although we don't. So Karen actually came into my world via the beautiful Melanie. Shout out to Melanie. And I connected with Melanie through social media. And we were in a like-minded group, and we decided to connect a bit more and talk about our passion. The beauty of networking with women in business is amazing. And then she said, you must meet Karen. She's my soul partner. She's an absolute legend, and they've been doing a lot of work together, which we'll definitely touch on. And so yeah, and then it all came back. But Karen and I haven't actually managed to meet up yet. We've been threatening, but we haven't done it. So this is really exciting because, like I said, whilst I feel like I know Karen, there's actually lots that I don't know about Karen. So we have a lot in common though, don't we? Because you're a personal trainer.
Yes, that's right.
And a yoga teacher. And for those that have been around a while will know that I was a personal trainer for a very brief time around the full-time job. I feel like I kind of didn't. Whilst I did, I didn't. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I put the time in. I didn't do the gym thing. But I am very passionate about health, and it all interlinks so beautifully with what I do now. So I could talk about it all day. So we're not going to talk about it all day. We're going to try and keep it to the point. But I'd love to know, Karen, have you always been into health and fitness? How did you come across yoga? Tell me where it all started for you.
Gosh, yes, I'll try not to compact it a little bit, but I have been pretty much into health and fitness all my life. As a child, always into like competitive sports, from swimming to running, lots of horse riding as well. Early days, I was like working in Newmarket as an apprentice jockey, slightly smaller, smaller frame then. And then I did start doing an office job for a little while, and I thought, this is just not for me. I still had I was doing my running competitions at the time. So whilst I was in that office job, I trained to be a personal trainer. So this is going back, I must be personal training 18 years now 20 odd years. I can't actually remember exactly when it was. I'd have to dig my certificates out to know. And that took me through. Then I was competing on stage, really going quite high level, really focusing on the nutritional side of things as well. So it wasn't just I noticed a lot of personal trainers are pretty much just exercise, but I was always very fascinated on the nutritional side of things, and how you can kind of change your body shape. So I spent 10 years of my personal training career competing, body fitness, figure. Ended up doing really well, went into the nationals, and then got selected to compete for Great Britain, and then so I did a couple of competitions, quite high level competitions. But I did find the more I did, the less I started to enjoy it. It was like it become more of a chore and a bit more stressful. So I did push myself for a long period of time, and I think I got the t-shirt, what's next? Anyway, cut a long story short, I fell pregnant little, so that kind of put a stop to the competing. Didn't think I would never go back, but as it happened, I didn't. And then after I had little one, who's now 6 years old, going on 13, it feels like, I was practicing yoga. Whilst I'd done yoga previously, I did it more for just prevention of injuries, just stretching my muscles out. Never really, I was always spiritual, so obviously like the meditation side of it, but didn't always connect it all. So when I started doing it at home with my little one just by my side, it was something I could do at home in the living room by myself, and I really got into it. And I think that was the turning point of like, wow, this is amazing. It ticks all the boxes as well. So whereas before, I think I've always had this like fascinated by everything spiritual, from the crystal healings to the Reikis to the ghosts, whatever route you want to go down.
Wow. Yeah,
So
it
yeah,
is a subject we can really
yeah,
dive
that's
into.
another talk. But then the yoga sort of helped me find a voice for it. So yeah, it's like it gave me a tool, because then I decided I become, I was practicing it all the time. I then decided to do my teacher training a little bit further down the line. It gave me that little entry to be able to be a bit more spiritual and a bit more open to, people I spoke to, rather than sounding completely cuckoo and like, oh no, stay away from her.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess I wasn't going to go straight into this part of it straight away, but it's a way that people can live it, isn't it, than just hear about it. They can experience it. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
super. And to be honest, I haven't necessarily come through that direction at all.
Right. Yeah.
So let's rewind a bit. I love that. So you were sporty from a child, which a lot of people might consider that it's easier if perhaps you've had that when you were younger to then obviously continue it when you're older. And to some extent, that's you can totally see that, right? But it's also and if you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I definitely did that. I was quite sporty, and actually along with that, I don't know about you, but when I was doing sports when I was younger, it wasn't about being healthy at all. It was much more about just being part of a team or something like that. And now my approach to health is just so different, and so that how I look at it and live it is just so different now.
Yeah, no, absolutely, definitely. I mean, I've been on the way I view like health and fitness now compared to when I did, even in my competing days, is like totally different. And the level competition side of things to being a yogi or yoga practitioner, whatever you want, how you want to call it, is opposite end of the scales, because yoga it's like the science of the mind, really. So whilst you may get into it from, I want to become more flexible, mostly people don't realize it's also about strength as well, and actually maybe more so about strength and flexibility. Or they go into it thinking, oh, I want to go into it to bliss out and zen out, and it really isn't that. And it isn't until you get on the mat and then become, doing it regularly, you start to see the science behind it as well, and all the philosophy side of it, and how it really is, it helps you just bring that awareness inside. So from being and also really identifying your own ego as well. So from really being like, from a competitive person, look at me, I'm as good as how good am I going to be? You can judge me, and then depending how well I do will be how good I am. And actually I found that was obviously one of the reasons I also stopped that side of things, because it did have a negative impact long term, because you're always sort of seeking outside validation for yourself. So whereas I think the yoga helps you really turn inwards and look inwards, and once you start studying, your own mind, the way you talk to yourself, understanding, the difference between yourself, your soul, and your ego, the chatter in your mind, what's true, what's not, what you're making up. Yeah, minefields. So
Yeah.
and it just, the journey keeps going. I think they say like yoga, it is like a lifelong practice, because it's like an onion. You unpeel one layer and you'll get another one. It's like, okay, so now this, and that's the same thing, I guess, when you're looking at things like doing your shadow work and things like that, things that come up and block you, or things that show themselves. But yoga makes you face that. So when you're kind of on your mat, and a lot of it is about focusing on your breath, focusing on your body. So when things come up, it's like observing it and being okay with it. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not easy, but that is really the practice of yoga, rather than pulling an Instagram pose. I mean, obviously we do that for marketing purposes, but that's not really what yoga is. You're building that strength and flexibility at the same time, because that's kind of giving you, it's like giving you friction. So how do we create transformation? We create it usually from friction. It doesn't really happen when we're feeling that comfortable. So
oh my gosh, so
yeah.
much right there. Yes, okay, well, it makes me sort of, I certainly, when I got back into fitness, I had all the excuses: no time, no money, no equipment, all of that jazz. And so that's kind of where it switched over for me. It's like, when I changed my mind about those things, none of it had changed. It was only me that changed. And that's kind of how that whole journey happened. That's why I'm doing what I am today. And you're so right, because it always starts with us. This is one of the key phrases that one particular client said to me. That's what it was. That's what got me. It's always us. And that's really beautiful way of putting it. Yeah, it's looking inwards. It's going, okay, so how can I start to understand myself, start to grow on myself through the whole thing that is life, and understand what on earth, who I am and what am I doing. So yeah, I really love that. I love that. So what are some of the key things that, or maybe what are the key surprises that people have when they go through yoga?
When they go through yoga, yeah. I mean, I think most of it people see it as just such a physical practice. And I think that's, yes, we all start there. Even myself, I mean, from the competition days, the running days, it's always about trying to get in better shape and tone up and look better, and everything about how everything appeared from the external. But when you really start deep diving into yoga, going beyond the mat, trying to live that lifestyle, you know, it's easier said than done. That's why it's always a practice. When you start looking into like the yoga philosophy, the yoga sutras, it really just takes you on an inward journey. And I think that's probably quite unexpected. From a physical point of view, it's not just about stretching. And I did notice one of the comments, somebody said they got injured when they did yoga, so they kind of jumped in too soon. Whilst I said that yoga, it should be challenging and it is building strength, it is supposed to meet you where you're at. So just because somebody else can do the splits or get the leg behind the head, that isn't yoga. That's, you know, if anything, going more traditional, like I've practiced quite a bit of Ashtanga and gone on an intensive course of it. Not that I'm an Ashtanga teacher. You have to be like 20 odd years of going in and out of India to do that. But it is very fascinating. It's the point of it is, it's like, it's not that, but lost my train of thought now. It's not about being as strong or, you know, doing, it's more about kind of coming inwards and understanding where you are, where you're coming from, looking at your own body, seeing, you know, you can create friction in the smallest of points of movement. If somebody's getting injured, then maybe they're not paying attention. So it is all about looking into the body, like the breathing as well. Often it's the transition between a pose, and trying to be that, you know, it's the ego. Maybe the ego's jumped in, and then you've ended up trying to go too far too soon, and then it's your ego almost shutting you down.
Also down to the teacher as well.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Understanding.
Yeah.
So I guess it comes from tuning in. It is connecting. It is being conscious, isn't it, rather than just doing, which I'm definitely a former action junkie, recovering workaholic, which I don't know if you noticed, but when I tried, because I was going to train up to do Pilates, I sort of, when I was training up, I did one of those sort of bulk courses, so I did exercise to dance and kettlebells and all sorts as part of the package. And I went to do Pilates. I was like, oh god, it's so boring. Like, I was just like, oh, I really can't. I don't know how I'm going to get into this, you know. And if I can't get to it, obviously, my people can't. But I now can see that was my action junkie side. That was me not being able to slow down because I've just been busy.
Yes.
And of course, so many people can probably relate to that, right?
Yeah, funny because I did exactly the same thing. So, you know, whenever I did my training or a little while into being a personal trainer, it's like, oh, I'll do a Pilates course. I mean, it wasn't, it was like a 3-day one. And I, you know, I couldn't have found it more boring. And I've never, well, I mean, I don't know. I haven't studied Pilates enough, but I think yoga has got so much depth to it. That's why it's like fascinating. But again, there's so many different forms of yoga, and that's the other thing maybe need to touch upon. It's like what people think they go to yoga to chill out and bliss out, whereas actually you need to do that's a long way away. You need to do the groundwork first. So it's like once that person, you know, one of the words that people have probably heard of is samadhi. Once that's one of like the 8 limbs of yoga. That's the 8th limb. It's that place of bliss and that universal consciousness and connection, and when you're just living a blissed out state all the time. But you have to do the groundwork to get there. And I think people expect to go to a yoga class and, you know, just be really, and you can't, you know, sometimes at the retreats you can really get into those moments for a short amount of time, but that isn't really the point of the yoga practice. The yoga practice itself is, you know, digging up the stuff that you don't want to face, digging up the shadow work. And it can be like, you know, it's physical. It's not always, I'm talking about it from a mental point of view, but it's like physical tensions within the body that comes from, you know, maybe things with stuff down. They say any kind of injury originally started off as a thought, an emotion. And then when we're kind of struggling with something, so you can really dive deep into it.
Again, these are subjects that we can talk about all day. And funnily enough, I hurt my back yesterday, it kind of started coming the day before yesterday, and I've not had this sort of thing come on at all. And my friend, who's also a coach, she's into belief coding as well, and she's like, it's obviously a trapped emotion, Marie. What have you? What are you holding on to? And I was just like, and she was talking about it. I could feel like emotional. Oh Lord. But yes, if your body's trying to talk to you.
Exactly. Yes.
And if you're not listening, it will come up in some other way. No, I absolutely believe that 100%.
Gets louder and louder and louder. You're like, what are you trying to tell me? I've had a bad inner thigh for the last year or so, and it's like I'm trying to sort of finding different ways of healing it. And then you could, you know, even like look at the chakra system then of like, and so where's that based? It's in my root chakra, which is like our, you know, our security, our stability. And then you kind of look at the world now and you're like, how secure and stable do I feel? Maybe not so much. And so you can sort of relate to different things.
Yeah, of course. And you know, you don't underestimate the power of other people's emotions as well that can impact and rub off on you, for sure.
Yes,
But this is what and I think what I really love, Karen, about the sort of work that we're doing is that science is only just catching up with it. Like this stuff has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
People have been preaching, but because the science hasn't necessarily been there, a lot of people sort of dismiss it as airy-fairy or whatever you want to call it. But the science is now there, and I just love that because it just empowers it even more. It's like, yes, this works. Yes, you should do it, and these are all the reasons why. And here's some science also just to complement it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think science it is starting, and it is starting to meet the more spiritual side of things, isn't it? So it's just kind of, as you say, waiting things to catch up. And you know,
go on.
Sorry, I was just like, I've always been sort of into like the energy and vibration and frequency and all, you know, all that woo-woo stuff. Some may say as well, but it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? And then that's going back to like your mind. Our thoughts create reality, and you know, we think they don't, but you start thinking bad things, and it's almost like tuning into a radio station, isn't it? So what do I want to tune into today? And when you do really, you know, set your day up in a good way, you have a great day. And when you set your day up in a bad day, you can just note and you can just see the difference.
Yeah, what are you
Um,
broadcasting? And
yeah.
I mean, I say science is just catching up, but there are some very prominent, well-known scientists that have been talking about frequency and
Oh
vibration
yes. Yeah.
for a long time, but no one's it's just not in that mainstream
Yeah.
school setting, that sort of
Love
thing.
Joe Dispenza. Love
Oh,
him. He's like,
yeah, now you're talking my
yeah,
language. Yeah, he
yeah,
absolutely. And I love that. And there's plenty, I mean, you know, in
yeah,
the personal development, there's plenty of evidence, and it all links up in one form or another. As you say, like the people that think they're lucky are the lucky ones. You don't find someone
yeah.
that thinks they're unlucky becoming
No,
becoming lucky. So yeah, I really love that. And of course, that is was the inspiration for this group, Connecting Consciously, because we are
yeah,
going on automatic so much and not stopping and thinking, getting caught up in the busyness of life. And now it's actually okay, time to slow down, start to ask these important questions, and start to
yeah,
listen to your body and decide, okay, well, what do I want to
yeah,
create?
yeah,
So yeah,
definitely.
I love that. And so, like you were talking about the chakras, that's what got me onto it. But yeah, there's so much evidence, and if you want some, anyone in the audience, just shout and we can point you in direction of different teachers depending what you want to know. But I think the big thing is for me, when I was really starting to deep dive into it just resonated. I heard it, and I knew it was truth. I didn't need the fact.
No.
It just was like, yeah, no, that makes sense.
And that's it, isn't it? It's also learning to connect with your own truth, and like learning to connect with your own heart center. What may be true for you may not be true for me, which is fine. But it's just like learning to connect. And yeah, I always think it's like, if it feels, trusting our feelings rather than our thinking.
The intuition's been known for a
Yeah.
long time. Even the doctors used to, at least. And
Yes.
your mother's intuition.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Exactly. And
So,
doesn't it always happen? Oh my goodness. It's like, even like, I don't know if you still get it, but it's like when I'll wake up and my little one's waking up at the same time. Next thing you know, he's walking in the room. Whereas if my other half is, he'll go into the room, he'll knock him on the shoulder. Wait, and he can't wake him up. I was like, I just know. It's just like little things.
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So if someone is just starting out on their journey with yoga, what would be a nice way to, I mean, there is a lot there. You can deep dive into it. You could go surface level.
Yes.
What would be a nice way for a beginner to start?
I mean, definitely starting the practice. And gosh, I haven't even mentioned it. We're how long into the conversation? It's our breath. And like,
how did that happen? Yeah, huge.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize.
It's like, and what does that do? If a lot of people may be getting into the yoga because obviously I mentioned earlier about not getting blissed out, but you can certainly make yourself feel a lot better by practicing yoga. I mean, and that's purely not because you're connecting to universal consciousness, but because you are literally slowing down your breath so you can manage your nervous system. We can control our nervous system if we want to. So some people may have heard probably more fight and flight. You heard your fight and flight system. So it's like your parasympathetic nervous system, and your sympathetic nervous system. So it's like we can control that. And the problem is nowadays, when people are in so much fear and anxiety, they get stuck in the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight.
The body remembers better than the mind.
Yeah. And even sort of our everyday stresses, whether you've got you're really busy, you're stressed, your work's busy, you're worried about things you're seeing on the TV if you watch the TV. And it's like just things, your body's stuck in this sympathetic nervous system. And what happens then is you end up having like a drip release of toxic hormones like cortisol, which for long-term effects, whilst it's beneficial short-term to get you away from something quick, they call it like get you away from a tiger if it's chasing you. But if you're stuck in it all the time, that toxic hormone can literally, make you sick, make you ill to extreme long term. So just by having like a yoga practice and understanding the breath and learning how to breathe properly, you are switching yourself out of that sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest, which is your recovery, your healing, and where the body can literally go, okay, I can calm down now and I can do all the jobs that I haven't been doing, and I can start to look at healing my body. So it's so important. And with having a physical yoga practice, I mean, actually, when yoga first, what was it, 4000 BC or something like that, initially they didn't have the physical yoga practice. It was all about the mind, the meditation, the pranayama, which is the breath work. The actual physical side of the yoga came in to help assist. So it helped you come into your body, focus on your breath, rather than being, your monkey mind being all over the place.
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Did you not? No, yeah. So it's quite people think the physical practice of yoga is yoga, but it's just literally a tool. It's a small part of it. It's like there's the 8 limbs of yoga, which won't go into now, but like your meditation, your pranayama, and so on. So it's really about managing mind, managing your breath, managing your emotions, which then you've got Ayurveda as well, which is the sister science of yoga, which is all about your health, but more about holistic health. So it's taking your environment in. So it's it's your medicine before the medicine we have now, really. So using your food as your medicine.
Yeah.
So somebody just veering off again. For somebody who's wanting just to start out on yoga, it's more about you can do the poses, but it's not about you have to be really flexible or even that you have to be really strong. You just go at your own pace. You just observe your body. And if you're in a position that it hurts or it's challenging, understand where your limitations are, but you observe it as, oh, well, that's interesting. Right now I'm here. That's fine. And then each time you practice it, you're going to feel your body adapt and change. And even sometimes during a yoga practice, you're going to feel lots of emotions come up because you're releasing those energetic blockages. So but it's always, the breath is so important. And that's why in most yoga practices, you'll hear the teacher be saying, inhale, do this, exhale, do this, or they'll always be coaching you through the breath and which then movement to go into. And then you've got obviously your meditation, your pranayama techniques as well. So pranayama is like breath control, and often you'll do that in a class maybe, but that can actually switch you into different states of being. So it's quite good if you've got something, for instance, if you're going for an interview or you want to be quite energetic, you'll do one style of pranayama, which is breath control. If you want to calm down, if you want to relax, you want to sleep, you do another style. So there's lots of different ways you can manipulate the breath to change your state of emotions to how you want it to be at that time.
Yeah, that fascinates me. In fact, that I'm looking at a breathwork course myself.
Right, okay.
It's incredible, and as you say, it all just comes back down to that the impact that the connection of the mind and the body that you can impact. Well, it works all ways. In which ways, doesn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when you're thinking about your breathing, you're not thinking about your shopping or whatever.
Yeah, in fact, I said this to lovely Fina the other day, that you try and think about something when you're exercising, it just doesn't happen. You can't do it. I've tried. It doesn't happen. And of course it definitely takes that energy out of it. But so you were talking about the trapped energy, and a lot of that can come out. And I think the key thing is knowing that our body does have that innate ability to heal. We sometimes forget that and give our power, expecting someone else to tell us, this is going to fix you. That's a problem, when actually we do have that all within us. Sometimes it's a few layers down, sometimes you've got to unpeel it, sometimes you think it's this thing and actually a bit further back and it's something else. But I think that's the biggest thing I like to get across to people, is that it really is all within.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
And it's like it's like you're saying that, you know, it's that innate ability to heal. Maybe all that's happening, it depends how, you know, how you want to look at it, but that pain in the body is a message to you. As you said earlier, it's like it's talking to you, isn't it? And I listened to somebody, I can't remember who it was the other day, it was quite fascinating. So we hear about turmeric, how it's like really healing and like really that reduces inflammation. Well, is it the turmeric or is it just our body's response? So it's our body that's doing it rather than the turmeric. It's just, you know, our body accepting it in a good way. So if you think, and that's, you know, when you go back to like the Ayurveda side of things, the medicine, it's like food is like, and your environment, it's either healing or harming. So the more we can do to support our body, the more we can understand what foods do what to our body.
But also
we'll
how
unpack
we think about
where we are. Yes, yeah, yeah, exactly.
Makes a massive difference.
Yes,
which would explain why some old boys can be smoking and drinking till ridiculous age and happy as Larry. I think happiness needs a mention here as well.
yes,
and others not so much.
yeah.
And I'm not encouraging people to go and be drinking, smoking
Yeah,
old age as long as you're happy. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm
yeah,
saying that does have a massive impact, and more and more science again is backing up the power of our beliefs and how we think about something, to
yeah.
the impact that has on our
You
life.
can also look at that from the Ayurveda system as well, because every person is supposed to be more dominant in one. I mean, sometimes you can be dominant in three, but more dominant in one dosha, which is like Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So, for instance, like a doctor will tell you, like an apple a day keeps the doctor away. That might be true for a Pitta or a Kapha, but it wouldn't be true for a Vata, because it can, so certain foods are going to respond differently to different people,
So
and
true.
certain things, yeah. So that's really fun as well, to like, if you look into Ayurveda a little bit, to work out what you are and, you know, where your imbalances are. And certain times later on down the life, we could become sort of 40 plus or going into your perimenopause, or menopause, whatever it is. You go more into a Vata life. So if you're quite Vata anyway, you may find that you're even more anxious or stressed out, in which case you actually need to be focused on be doing more calming types of exercise, and rather than, and often those people be the ones like doing like the hardcore training and the, you know, consistently trying to and just winding themselves up more and more, but they actually need to come back, because that's then you've got that cortisol and the stress and the it's yeah, fascinating.
Yes, that's so true, and of course that applies in so many areas, doesn't it? So it comes back to getting to know ourselves, and
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, what is it? The statistic? It's like, I think 80% of our diseases are preventable, and it's just the environment.
yes,
And those genes, for a long time, people thought it was genes that determined if you were going to get ill, but it's actually the environment triggering those genes in a certain way that creates
yes,
that illness. And so parents might have an illness, the child might have it, but it's because they're going through the same environmental things, because they're doing the same sort of actions and being around the same sort of people and food and triggers, should I say. So
yeah, exactly.
really,
Yeah,
really powerful. Is it 80? I think it is something. It's a massive number for sure.
right, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So that's really key. Yeah, is finding out what works for you, and probably what you're avoiding most is probably what you need.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
So what do you think we covered? The other myths? What other myths have we got around here?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. A lot of it is obviously people trying to get into the flexibility side of things, where it goes a lot deeper than that. So whereas it isn't all about flexibility, definitely, you know, building strength, really building. I think people forget that part of it. They think, oh no, yoga is just about, you know, I want to get stronger or I want to get fitter. Yoga can make you fit and yoga can make you strong. So, and also I mentioned earlier about the balancing of the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system, when you practice yoga, it's one of the few activities that does both, like within a session, if you're to do it, in a correct style way. Whereas most activities are actually going to activate cortisol in the body, so then which can actually prevent things like fat burning. So, and also prevent muscle growth. So talk about, so like a yoga practice could actually help you achieve your fitness or figure goals quicker than just doing your normal gym work alone, which is quite interesting. People think, oh no, I'd like to do yoga, but I'm not going to do it yet until I've transformed myself in a way that I want to. But actually, obviously, you might be missing a trick if you're doing that as well.
Yeah, of course. And of course, the people that are going to be practicing yoga are not going to be the same people measuring bicep sizes at the gym or whatever.
No.
You know what I mean? So they're going to be more conscious and therefore just a different experience.
And it's creating balance. I mean, obviously, if you want to be a bodybuilder, you need to go to the gym. You're not going to do it, but if you want to just get toned and lean and fit and healthy, it's a very good practice to do, because it just really does create balance. And you can
go on.
You can start off, a complete beginner. You can start any level. The misconception is I'm not flexible enough or I'm not strong enough. There is anybody can do it. There's chair yoga, you can do it even if you can't sit on the floor. So any level is, even to lie down, go into child's pose for 5 minutes, you could call that a yoga practice. Even to focus on your breath, you can call that a yoga practice.
And I think that is the beautiful thing about yoga, because yes, you get that in the sessions, if you like, but because you are slowing down, because you are starting to become aware and get less caught up in what's going on outside of you, that you're starting to break the cycle, right? So you will start to be a bit more like that outside of just your practice. So whether it's be going straight to a certain cupboard in the kitchen, or being reactive to toddlers, partners, mothers, whatever, you are starting to go, hang on.
You're creating that awareness that then you call it, living yoga on and off the mat. So you're creating the awareness, in your relationships around other people. So it's like you've started to almost hear your mind as a separate person. So it's like it says something like, oh, where did that come from? You have any judgment. Well, that's one of the, I almost think everyone's dealing with some level of judgment. It's like, oh, look at their shoes or whatever it may be. But I even notice myself now is if I start to think something, I stop it before it comes. Not always, but just become very, very aware.
I think that's really the superpower, isn't it? When you can start to become conscious and realize your thoughts are not you, and you can create thoughts. So that's amazing.
And your ego as well. It's like it's just trying to keep you safe, isn't it? A lot of the time, it's like, don't do this or don't do that. It steps in your way, and it's like, really, if you kind of think of your ego like a little child. I mean, maybe you speak about this probably more all the time anyway, but it's like, just realizing again, it's just another chatter. You're like, well, thank you, but I'm going to do it anyway.
That's it. It's a beautiful realization when, like, even just knowing that the mind is often going that way, or the ego, whatever you want to call it, to keep you safe. You can go, okay, well, it might be keeping me safe from judgment or this, that, and the other, but what's it stopping me from?
Yes, exactly.
And then you can, like, write the script, can't you?
Yeah.
So what I know you've created a product, a freebie, is it, that you want to share?
Yes. I'd love to share it, actually. It took me a lot longer than expected, but I'm quite proud of it. So
go on, tell us about it and where everyone can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram. I've got the high vibe life _yogi. I'm also on Facebook as well, so it's under my name, Karen Norris. I do have a Facebook page, but that just kind of copies over from Instagram. I've also got a website, which is karen-norris.co.uk. I'm just starting, so next month I'm starting back up in-person yoga classes. So that's local to where I live in Waterbeach. So just come across a lovely studio that they've recently done up, so it's perfect timing. So I'm going to be doing the class on a Monday at 6 p.m. and Thursday 10:30. So that'll be after the half term. So I think that's week commencing 20th of February. So, and they're both of them classes are going to be suitable, completely suitable for beginners. So it's probably going to be mostly either people that haven't done it ever before or people that have had little practice. So if you want to try it out, definitely worth coming along, giving it a go. First class is actually donation based anyway, so if you don't like it, you can run off. And then thereafter we're rolling it over. Yes, then I've got my little freebie that I've created as well, which is it's 20 yoga postures. So I've broken them down to what you're going to expect. So that might be something if you're wanting to start like a yoga class to get you going beforehand. 20 yoga postures that shows you like the benefits of each posture that you may not, understand. You may not hear in a yoga class. So all the different things each posture can do. They're all beginner friendly, but there's modifications there as well. You can use blocks or, there's various different ways of doing it. And then also little teaching point tips as well. I've also put in like a Surya Namaskara A, which is your sun salutation, if people have ever heard of that or done that before. So that creates a little flow for you to follow along with. And there's also a couple of YouTube videos that you can link up to, and there's a couple of, I think it's 20-minute videos that I've got on YouTube. I was doing a YouTube channel for a while, stopped doing it, but I definitely plan to get that going again as well.
Exciting.
And actually in April I'm doing another little mini retreat with Mel, so that's coming up soon as
that
well.
was my next question.
Yes. Yeah, we finally got one in, so that's exciting too. So we just that'll be the next thing, kind of.
I only heard good things from last year's ones, because you did a few locally, didn't you?
Yeah, they're great fun, and really, and I say it's like yoga's not about bliss, but it really, everyone's kind of quite chilled out and happy, and they're really good fun. So
it makes a huge difference when everyone's on the same vibe.
Yes.
And so Melanie provides the food, doesn't she, for the retreat?
She does, yes. So it's all like vegan food, all like fresh, and she makes it herself, puts a lot of love into it, and you can tell. So there's definitely, people are always so impressed with the fruit. We do like a juice to start with, so she'll make up a juice, then we'll go into our yoga practice. Then I think this time maybe we're not doing it quite as long this time, so we can do like yoga practice follow with a meditation, and then Melanie will do some lunch or brunch depending when it is. But we'll get the details of that really soon as well.
That is really
exciting.
So much for coming and sharing your passion.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure. Is there anything else you'd like to share with anyone today?
I don't think so. No, just feel free to connect with me, because I've got lots of things. I'm planning to do like an online course, or sort of more online in-person. Is this in-person? Online coaching course, yoga, health, nutrition, that way of tape. I haven't created it yet. It's in progress, so that's further down the line. But if people want to connect with me, website, email, training at karen-norris.co.uk, my Instagram as well.
And obviously, if there's any questions, guys, let us know, and we will pop that to Karen. But
yes,
I think it's one of these conversations we should definitely come back for a round two, I'm sure.
I know.
I know that I could talk about this stuff for a long period of time.
We could keep going, can we?
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Karen. And you've got all the details there, but maybe we could drop a couple of links or something below as well.
Sure.
Make it easy for people. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye. You too. Bye.